Hello everyone, this is Jag. Well, in this video I'm going to cover 10 seeds that you must grow in May. Now for a lot of you, last frosts have already passed. However, if you're in a zone where you're still expecting some frost or even some light snow, wait until your last frost to seed these. So let's get started. Number one, winter squash. Now there are many different kinds of winter squash you can grow. You can grow butternut squash, which is a little bit sweet and also earthy, or you can grow honey nut squash. The honey nut squash is darker and usually they're about half the size of butternut squash, and they're usually sweeter than the butternut squash. You can also grow spaghetti squash, red curry squash, or acorn squash. Since the danger of frost is already over, you can directly seed all of these seeds that I'm going to mention in this video directly in your garden. So let's start with squash. So you can directly seed squash right into your garden. The seed depth should be half an inch deep. The plant spacing should be 2 to 3 feet apart, and row spacing 4 to 6 feet apart, because these squash plants can grow really huge and they can take a lot of area. However, they do produce a lot, so you can get a lot of poundage for your area. You can start harvesting these just 4 months after planting. Just wait until they properly cure and harden before you harvest them. If they're properly cured and you keep them in a cool, dark and dry place, they can last in your pantry for up to 6 months, and this makes a great source of food for your entire winter. Number two, pumpkins. Now you can grow a variety of pumpkins as well, such as sugar pie pumpkins, which is on a sweeter side and it's really good to make pumpkin pie. You can also grow Long Island cheese pumpkin, which is a little bit less sweeter than the sugar pie pumpkin, but it's full of flavor. You can also grow yard ale pumpkin, which has an earthy taste and makes really good soups. Or you can grow Cinderella pumpkin, which has a finer tone and a balance between sweetness and earthy flavor, and it's good for making pies and soups. You can directly seed the pumpkin seeds in your ground in May. The seed depth should be half an inch deep. Plant spacing should be 3 to 4 feet apart, and row spacing 4 to 6 feet apart. Now these pumpkin vines can grow really big, so they need ample space to grow and create really good pumpkins. Number three, summer squash, or the soft squash, which includes yellow crookneck squash, the black beauty zucchini, the golden zucchini or the yellow zucchini, and the Indian squash, which is very fluffy and buttery as well. You can plant zucchini seeds directly in your garden right after your last frost. You can start harvesting zucchini just 2 months after planting. Plant zucchini seeds 1 inch deep. The plant spacing should be 2 to 3 feet apart, and row spacing 3 to 4 feet apart. Zucchini plants tend to grow really big, so if you plant them closer, be sure to prune your zucchini plants. Prune off any leaves that are diseased or any leaves that are touching the ground. Pruning your zucchini plants will make them really healthy. Pruning encourages airflow, prevents disease, and also encourages pollination. Fun fact, zucchini and other squash flowers are also edible. So if your plants are producing too much zucchini, also try the zucchini flowers this summer. Also, pick your zucchini often. This one is too small to pick, however, this one is just right. If you let your zucchini grow just about a day or two, they might grow way too big. I like to harvest them right about this size. You can let it grow a little bit bigger just about 1 more day, but the smaller they are, the tastier they are. Number four, cucumbers. Now cucumbers are one of my favorites. They are really refreshing and they're really good in salads and sandwiches. However, they can be a little bit tricky to grow because if you are not consistent in watering the cucumbers, they can turn out bitter. They love consistent and frequent watering. Sow the seeds of cucumbers half an inch deep. The plant spacing should be 2 to 3 feet apart, and row spacing 4 feet apart. And it's recommended to use trellising to grow your cucumbers. Number five, melons. Now this includes watermelons, cantaloupes, and Armenian cucumbers. Now there are many different varieties of watermelons and cantaloupes as well that you can grow. Just plant the seeds in your ground half an inch deep. The plant spacing should be 3 to 4 feet apart, and row spacing 4 to 6 feet apart. These vines also require ample space to grow, so make sure your plants are adequately spaced to grow really nice watermelons and cantaloupes. Now Armenian cucumbers are not really cucumbers, they are melons. They do taste like cucumbers, but they belong to the melon family. And guess what? Armenian cucumbers never turn out bitter. So if you have trouble growing cucumbers, try Armenian cucumbers. And you get a lot more poundage from the same area from growing Armenian cucumbers rather than regular cucumbers. Number six, corn. Now corn is very quick to germinate and it grows really fast as well. You can also implement 360 gardening practice, in which you can grow corn to provide trellising structure for growing your green beans. You can also grow squash at the bottom to shade out the weeds. Sow the seeds of corn directly into your garden in May. The seed depth should be 1 inch deep. The seed spacing should be 6 inches to 12 inches apart and row spacing 2 to 3 feet apart. Now corn is pollinated by wind, so make sure you're growing enough corn for proper pollination. I recommend at least an area of 4 feet by 4 feet to grow your corn. Number 7, okra. Now corn and okra does not transplant very well, so it's best to directly seed these into your garden in May or right after the last frost. So okra seeds half an inch deep, the plant spacing should be 2 to 3 feet apart and row spacing 3 feet apart. You can start harvesting okra just 2 months after planting, and okra will keep producing all the way until September and October up until your first frost. I made a separate video on tips on how to grow okra, so check that out as well if you're interested. Number 8, sweet potato slips. Now if you've been following my monthly videos on what to grow in March and April, you must have already started your sweet potato slips from sweet potatoes. I have a separate video on how to grow sweet potato slips from your regular store-bought sweet potatoes, so check that out if you're interested. Now, if you already have these sweet potato slips, you can now directly plant it into your garden in May and they will start producing sweet potatoes. To plant your sweet potato slips, dig a hole in your garden and lay your sweet potato slips on the side like you would plant tomatoes, and then cover with soil. Proper plant spacing for sweet potato slips is 12 to 18 inches apart and row spacing 3 feet apart. Number 9, green beans. Green beans are super easy to grow. You can directly seed green beans in your garden in spring right after your last frost, which is either April or May depending on your zone. You can also start green beans indoors about 2 weeks before your last frost. You can grow green bean seedlings in rain gutter and then transplant the entire content of rain gutter directly in your garden. The rain gutter is a great idea to transplant seedlings that are closely planted. Plant green bean seeds 1 inch deep. Plant spacing should be 3 inches apart and row spacing 2 feet apart. Green beans are fast to grow and you can start harvesting green beans just 2 months after planting. You can grow vining variety of green beans, or for ease of growth, you can try bush beans such as contender beans. If you're interested in buying summer seeds, you can check out my seeds collections. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Number 10, basil. Now if you want to grow really big and bushy basil plants, you must properly prune your basil plants. So if you prune your basil plants frequently, the basil plants will grow bushier and will create a lot more branching stems, and you get to enjoy fresh basil. I love to grow basil in partial shade because the temperature in summer over here can reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So basil leaves will get really sharp and really hard if they're grown in full sun in extreme heat. However, if you grow them in partial shade, the basil leaves will get really broad and really big to capture the sunlight, and they will be very tender as well. Plant basil seeds half an inch deep. Plant spacing should be 12 to 18 inches apart and row spacing 3 feet apart. You can also propagate basil from cuttings as well, and have a video on that. The link will be in the description. You can also very easily grow basil in containers. You can grow a small plant in smaller containers, or you can grow multiple plants in a bigger container such as wine barrels. If you like this video, you're going to like the video on vegetable you must grow in summer. You can check it out right here, and I'll see you in another video.